History is full of fascinating tales, but what if some of them were outright lies? 27 shocking historical lies that will leave you questioning the truth. Here is a quick question. Who discovered America? Everyone knows the answer is, but wait, is that really the truth? For centuries, Christopher Columbus has been hailed as a hero for discovering America. Yet the truth paints a darker picture. Columbus's arrival marked the onset of European colonization, which led to widespread exploitation and the genocide of indigenous peoples. Historical accounts by Bartolomé de las Casas detail horrific acts, including the enslavement of native populations, the imposition of harsh tributes, and the devastation caused by European diseases. While Columbus set this era into motion, debates persist about how much of the brutality was his doing versus broader systemic factors of colonization. The term discovery itself erases the thriving pre-Columbian civilizations already present in the Americas. His legacy forces us to question the true nature of celebrated historical figures. When you think of witch hunts, you probably imagine a chaotic era of persecution sweeping across medieval Europe. The truth, however, is more nuanced. The most intense witch trials actually took place during the 16th and 17th centuries, not the Middle Ages. These events were localized and often driven by fear, superstition, and political motivations rather than a unified Europe-wide campaign. The idea of constant, widespread hunts misrepresents history. While many lives were tragically lost, the scale of the trials is often exaggerated in popular culture. The sensationalized image we know today stems from later narratives and modern depictions, which distort the complex socio-political factors of the time. History, as we see, often exaggerates for effect. The next lie we're about to uncover is just as shocking, if not more so. The image of Emperor Nero playing his fiddle while Rome burned in 64 AD is one of history's most enduring myths. But this story is likely fiction. Nero wasn't even in Rome when the fire began. He was miles away in Antium. Records suggest that upon hearing of the disaster, he rushed back to organize relief efforts, providing shelter and supplies to the homeless. So how did this myth arise? Nero's political enemies crafted the story to tarnish his reputation, portraying him as a callous and tyrannical leader. The fiddle, of course, didn't even exist during Nero's time. This fabricated tale highlights how propaganda can turn a complex figure into a symbol of indifference and cruelty. But what about periods of history themselves? Were entire eras misrepresented? The Dark Ages are often depicted as a period of ignorance and stagnation following the fall of the Roman Empire. However, this term is a gross oversimplification. While challenges certainly existed, this era also saw significant advancements in art, architecture, and learning. Monasteries played a crucial role in preserving ancient texts, paving the way for the Renaissance. Political and social structures emerged during this time, shaping the foundations of modern Europe. The narrative of a uniformly dark period is largely a later invention, reflecting biases of Renaissance and Enlightenment thinkers who sought to glorify their own eras by disparaging earlier ones. Today, historians reject this term as misleading, advocating for a more balanced view of this complex period. Next, we'll delve into another supposed conflict that history has gotten completely wrong. It's a popular belief that the church and science were mortal enemies during the Middle Ages. Yet the reality was far more collaborative. Many clergy members were also scientists, contributing to advancements in fields like astronomy, mathematics, and medicine. Universities established under church auspices became key centers of learning, fostering intellectual growth. While some conflicts, such as Galileo's trial, are often highlighted, these were exceptions rather than the norm. The church also preserved ancient texts and funded scientific studies. The oversimplified narrative of constant conflict between faith and reason undermines the nuanced relationship that actually existed. Understanding this interplay reveals how science and religion often work together to shape the intellectual foundations of the modern world. Prepare for the next shocking lie. Geishas are often misunderstood in Western culture, with many equating them to prostitutes. This misconception couldn't be further from the truth. Geishas were highly skilled entertainers trained in traditional Japanese arts, including music, dance, poetry, and conversation. Their role was to provide sophisticated entertainment at exclusive gatherings, preserving centuries-old cultural practices. The elaborate costumes, makeup, and hairstyles were part of their professional persona, reflecting their artistry and dedication to their craft. Geishas symbolized elegance, refinement, and the preservation of Japanese traditions. Misrepresenting them not only distorts their history, but also disrespects the profound cultural significance of their profession. Their legacy is one of artistry and tradition, not exploitation or scandal. But this isn't the only cultural misunderstanding history has given us. Hollywood's Wild West is a land of shootouts, lawlessness, and constant danger. But this image is far from accurate. While violence did occur, most frontier towns were relatively peaceful, with established communities and functioning legal systems. People spent their days farming, ranching, and building new lives on the frontier. The exaggerated tales of chaos largely come from dime novels and later Hollywood movies, which sensationalized events for entertainment. Real life in the West was often mundane, focused more on survival and community building than on gunfights and robberies. This romanticized portrayal diminishes the struggles and achievements of those who shaped the frontier. The next historical misconception involves a legendary figure shrouded in mystery. King Arthur, the legendary British king with his sword Excalibur and the Knights of the Round Table, is a cornerstone of Western literature and folklore. But was he a real historical figure? While the Arthurian legends are rich with tales of bravery, chivalry, and magic, there is no concrete historical evidence to definitively prove Arthur's existence. The stories likely evolved from a blend of Celtic myths, oral traditions, and later medieval romances. Though he may be based on a historical figure, the Arthur we know today is largely a product of imagination, a symbol of idealized kingship and chivalry. But legends aren't the only things history has gotten wrong. Sometimes real events become mysteries themselves. But legends aren't the only things history has gotten wrong. Sometimes real events become mysteries themselves. The disappearance of the Roanoke colony in the late 16th century remains one of the most enduring mysteries in American history. In 1587, 117 English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, off the coast of present-day North Carolina. When a supply ship returned 3 years later, the colony had vanished, leaving behind only the cryptic word Croatoan carved into a post. What happened to them? Theories abound, from assimilation with native tribes to disease or conflict. But the lack of definitive evidence continues to fuel speculation and intrigue. This mystery is only one of many historical puzzles that continue to baffle us. The story of the Man in the Iron Mask, a mysterious prisoner held captive in France during the late 17th and early 18th centuries, has captivated imaginations for centuries. The prisoner, whose identity was carefully concealed, was forced to wear a mask, though it was likely made of velvet, not iron. The reasons for his imprisonment and his true identity remain unknown, fueling numerous theories involving royal conspiracies and state secrets. The mystery surrounding this figure has been heavily fictionalized, creating a legend that is more captivating than the historical facts. Now we'll shift our focus to even more shocking historical lies. The Holy Grail, the cup said to have been used by Jesus at the Last Supper, has been a powerful symbol of spiritual quest and divine grace for centuries. Legends tell of knights embarking on perilous journeys to find this sacred relic, believing it held miraculous powers. However, there is no historical evidence to confirm the Grail's existence. The story likely originated from medieval literature and religious symbolism, evolving over time into a complex and enduring myth. The Grail represents humanity's enduring search for meaning, redemption, and connection to the divine, more so than a tangible historical artifact. But sometimes historical events are twisted to promote a specific agenda. While it's true that Vikings reached North America around 1000 AD, establishing a short-lived settlement at Lonceau Meadows in present-day Canada, the claim that they discovered America is misleading. Indigenous peoples had inhabited the Americas for thousands of years before the Vikings arrived. The Viking presence was brief and did not lead to sustained colonization. The narrative of Viking discovery often overshadows the rich history and prior claim of Native American populations, perpetuating a Eurocentric view of history. This brings us to another pivotal moment in American history that's often misrepresented. The iconic image of George Washington crossing the Delaware River on Christmas night 1776 is a powerful symbol of American resilience and determination. However, the popular depiction often shows small, open boats struggling through icy waters. In reality, the Continental Army used Durham boats, larger, shallower draft vessels designed for cargo transport on the Delaware. These boats were much more stable and capable of carrying troops, horses, and artillery. The romanticized image simplifies the logistical complexity of the crossing and the type of vessels used. Now let's look at another piece of American history that's been shrouded in myth. The tale of Betsy Ross sewing the first American flag is a cherished piece of American folklore, but it lacks solid evidence. Betsy Ross was indeed a skilled seamstress who made flags for the Continental Army, but no records from the Revolutionary War confirm that she designed the iconic Stars and Stripes. The story only emerged decades after her death, popularized by her grandson in 1870. While inspiring, this legend oversimplifies the collaborative efforts behind the flag's creation. The Continental Congress likely commissioned multiple designs, reflecting the collective contributions of early Americans. Betsy's story persists as a symbol of patriotic pride, but it serves as a reminder of how myths often overshadow historical realities. The image of George Washington enduring life with wooden dentures is a persistent myth. Although Washington faced lifelong dental problems and wore dentures, they weren't made of wood. His false teeth were crafted from a mix of ivory, gold, lead, and human teeth, some reportedly taken from enslaved individuals. The misconception likely arose from the appearance of his ivory dentures, which became stained and discolored over time. Despite his struggles, Washington's dental issues didn't stop him from achieving remarkable feats as a military leader and president. This anecdote, while humorous, obscures the harsher truths about 18th century dental practices and Washington's reliance on enslaved labor for his personal needs. The tale of young George Washington chopping down his father's cherry tree and confessing, "I cannot tell a lie," is a story ingrained in American folklore. However, there's no historical basis for this charming anecdote. This myth originated from a biography by Parson Weems, written after Washington's death in 1799. Weems was known for embellishing stories to create moral lessons, and the cherry tree tale is one of his most famous inventions. It aimed to portray Washington as a paragon of honesty and integrity. While the story's endearing, it's entirely fictional, highlighting how idealized narratives can shape the legacy of historical figures. This leads us to another famous scientific story that may not be entirely accurate. The story of Isaac Newton discovering gravity after observing an apple fall from a tree is a simplified version of events. While Newton himself mentioned an apple in recounting his thought process, this anecdote doesn't capture the years of observation, experimentation, and mathematical analysis that led to his groundbreaking theory. Newton's work on gravity was influenced by earlier scientists and required a deep understanding of motion, celestial mechanics, and calculus. The apple story has become a convenient metaphor for a complex scientific journey, emphasizing inspiration over hard work. It's a reminder that even simple symbols in history often obscure the painstaking efforts behind monumental discoveries. The next myth involves another pioneering achievement that has been attributed to the wrong people. Orville and Wilbur Wright are celebrated for their historic 1903 flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, which marked the first controlled, powered, and sustained flight of a heavier-than-air machine. However, the notion that they invented flight oversimplifies history. Before the Wright brothers, inventors like Sir George Cayley and Otto Lilienthal made significant contributions to aerodynamics and gliding. The Wrights built on these advancements, adding innovations such as three-axis control and a lightweight engine. Their achievement was revolutionary, but it was part of a larger timeline of innovation. Recognizing this broader context doesn't diminish their accomplishment. It highlights the collaborative nature of progress. This brings us to another figure whose historical narrative has been significantly altered. Charles Lindbergh became a national hero in 1927 for completing the first solo, non-stop transatlantic flight. Yet his later life complicates this legacy. Lindbergh's public image was tarnished by his isolationist stance before World War II and controversial views, including sympathies for Nazi Germany. While he contributed to aviation advancements and supported environmental causes later in life, these complexities challenge the idealized portrayal of him as an unblemished hero. Lindbergh's story demonstrates how historical figures can embody both extraordinary achievements and deeply flawed beliefs, reminding us that history is rarely black and white. The Fountain of Youth, a legendary spring that grants eternal youth, is often linked to Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon. According to popular lore, he searched for the fountain in Florida in 1513. However, there's no historical evidence that Ponce de Leon was ever pursuing such a goal. His expeditions were likely motivated by political ambitions and a quest for resources. The Fountain of Youth story appears to have been a later invention, added to his legacy as a romanticized flourish. While captivating, this myth detracts from the real challenges and achievements of early explorers, showing how imagination often reshapes history. Amelia Earhart's disappearance during her 1937 attempt to circumnavigate the globe remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries. Despite exhaustive searches, no definitive evidence has explained her fate. Theories range from a crash into the Pacific Ocean to capture by the Japanese, and even her survival under an assumed identity. Artifacts and photographs occasionally spark speculation, but none have provided conclusive proof. Earhart's story captivates us not only because of the mystery, but also because of her trailblazing spirit. Her disappearance has cemented her as an enduring symbol of adventure and resilience, even as the truth remains elusive. This leads us to another area where popular depictions often stray from historical accuracy. The popular image of the cowboy in the American West is overwhelmingly white, thanks to decades of Hollywood portrayals. In reality, a significant portion of cowboys were Black, Hispanic, vaqueros, and Native American. These men were crucial to the cattle industry, bringing diverse skills and expertise to ranching and cattle drives. After the Civil War, many formerly enslaved individuals found work as cowboys, while vaqueros introduced essential techniques still used in ranching today. However, this rich diversity has been largely erased in popular culture, which perpetuates a whitewashed narrative of the Wild West. Recognizing these contributions offers a fuller, more accurate picture of this iconic era in American history. The idea that Albert Einstein struggled with math in school is a widespread myth. In reality, Einstein excelled in mathematics from a young age. By the time he was 15, he had mastered calculus and was far ahead of his peers. The misconception likely stems from a misunderstanding of the Swiss grading system, where a 1 is the highest mark, not the lowest. Einstein consistently received top grades in math and physics throughout his education. This myth has been used to inspire struggling students, but it obscures the truth about Einstein's exceptional abilities. It's a reminder to verify stories, even those meant to motivate, as they can often distort reality. The phrase, "let them eat cake," is often attributed to Marie Antoinette, France's last queen before the Revolution, as evidence of her indifference to the starving masses. However, there's no proof she ever said it. The quote first appeared in the writings of philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, years before Marie Antoinette even arrived in France. It was likely attributed to her later to emphasize her supposed aloofness and excess. While the queen led a lavish lifestyle, this false quote unfairly cemented her as a symbol of aristocratic detachment, overshadowing the complexities of her life and the tumultuous events leading to the French Revolution. The Boston Tea Party, where American colonists dumped British tea into Boston Harbor, is often portrayed as a spur-of-the-moment act of rebellion. In truth, it was a carefully planned protest by the Sons of Liberty, led by Samuel Adams. The group organized the event to oppose the Tea Act, which they saw as unfair taxation without representation. Participants disguised themselves as Mohawk Indians to conceal their identities, adding a symbolic gesture of defiance. This act of rebellion was a calculated political statement, not an impulsive outburst. Understanding the planning behind it highlights the strategic efforts of early revolutionaries to challenge British rule. This brings us to another story of strategic thinking, albeit in a very different context. The Gordian knot, a complex knot tied by King Gordius, came with a prophecy. Whoever untied it would rule all of Asia. When Alexander the Great encountered it, he didn't attempt to unravel it traditionally. Instead, he sliced it in half with his sword, declaring the prophecy fulfilled. This bold action symbolizes decisive problem-solving and thinking outside the box. However, whether Alexander's solution adhered to the prophecy is debatable. Was it clever ingenuity or brute force? The story illustrates how leadership is often judged by results rather than adherence to convention. It remains a powerful metaphor for overcoming seemingly impossible challenges with creativity and determination. This leads us to a final geographical misconception. Contrary to what some might assume, the Nile River flows northward, from the highlands around Lake Victoria to the Mediterranean Sea. This is due to the river's source being at a higher elevation than its mouth, not because of any geographical anomaly. This northward flow was critical to the development of ancient Egyptian civilization, providing fertile soil through annual flooding and serving as a vital transportation route. While it may seem counterintuitive given common assumptions about rivers flowing downward on maps, the Nile's course is a reminder that geography often defies expectations. Understanding such simple facts can deepen our appreciation for the natural forces that shape human history. And there you have it, 27 shocking historical lies you were taught. History is often more complex and nuanced than the stories we grew up believing. These myths, while entertaining, remind us of the importance of questioning narratives and seeking the truth. Which of these revelations surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more eye-opening content that challenges everything you thought you knew. Until next time, keep exploring and uncovering the real stories behind history.